Counsel, and please the court, members of the jury. Bowman was behind it all. He was behind the bracelets that stole thousands of dollars from the Rocky River during the summer of 2012. He was behind the robbery that left Haley Floyd sobbing on the ground. And he was behind the escape of Mabel Cameron Poole, flee the park, and caused the murder of Winston Thomas. Bowman was behind it all because Bowman planned it all. At the beginning of today's trial, my co-counsel Jasmine Stein told you that we are going to prove the defendant guilty of theft, robbery, and murder. But there might be one question still left in your mind. What about Poole? How could the defendant be guilty if Poole was the one handing out the fake bracelets? How can the defendant be guilty if it was Poole who held the knife up to Haley's face? Well, there's a very simple answer to that question. It's called complicity. In Midland's, complicity is a legal term. It means you can be guilty for the conduct of another if you aid the other person, counsel the other person, or help the other person in commissioning the crime itself. In other words, if you help create, commit, or complete the crime, you are guilty of the crime. And that's exactly what we have in the case of the defendant today. He helped create the crime, he helped commit the crime, and he helped complete the crime, and therefore he is guilty of the crime. Now in a few moments, the defense is going to come up, and they're going to tell you a lot of things, but one thing in particular, they're going to try to make you believe we haven't shown intent. But members of the jury, the state doesn't have to try and manufacture intent, because it's the defendant who makes his intent in these crimes plain as day. It's the defendant's actions and it's the defendant's words that show Bowman was behind it from the very start. I'll begin with theft by deception. In order to satisfy theft, the state had to prove to you the defendant, along with his co-conspirator Cameron Poole, stole more than $500 from Rock and Roll using some sort of scheme. Now the scheme was simple. When a customer went to buy a $35 World Tour wristband and pay cash, Cameron Poole would keep $15 of it from himself and the defendant, put $20 into the register, and ring it in as a $20 regular pass. In order to fool the park system of accounting, he would discard or throw away one of those official regular bands so that the records matched the register. In order to satisfy the customer, he would hand them a fake World Tour wristband so they got what they thought they had purchased. Now, the thing is, members of the jury, is that we heard this scheme, all of its workings, from the mouth of the defendant himself. The same person who's claiming that he wasn't involved in the scheme in any way is the person who told you exactly how the scheme worked. But what further connects the defendant to the scheme? Well, let's start with motive. It's not even a question. You heard the defendant felt like he was working for pennies. And J.C. Longstreet, the park's owner, testified that the defendant had come asking to her, saying, "I'd like a raise." And when he found out that he wasn't going to get a raise, he had to resort to other means. Tyler Hartman took the stand today, and she testified that she heard the defendant tell him, "Poole, I have a few ideas for how you can get what Longstreet owes you." That's solicitation. And you heard from the defendant's own mouth once again that he was impressed by these fake wristbands they got. In fact, he took ownership of the wristbands on the stand today. Members of the jury, that's involvement. Furthermore, once the scheme had already taken place, once the ball was rolling, you heard the defendant expose his participation when he expressed concern that park management had caught on to their fake bracelets. When Poole freaked out at this news, the defendant calmed him down by telling him, "Don't worry, I have a plan." And that plan, members of the jury, is the robbery against Haley Floyd that caused the murder of Winston Thomas. You see, in order to enable Cameron's escape from the park, avoid Cameron being caught, and also in order to distance himself from the scheme and make it look like he had no part in it, the defendant and his co-conspirator, Cameron Poole, had to stage a robbery and subsequent escape. Now, the law states that the duration of a crime lasts until completion of the flight from the crime. So shoved a knife in Haley Floyd's face and threatened her into giving him all of the contents of the cash register. He needed somehow to flee the park. The front gate was guarded by Winnie Thomas. The rest of the park was surrounded by a 15-foot fence. The only other option was through the off-limits exit door in the back of the Tunnel of Terror ride. This is the same door that Tyler Hartman testified, having heard the defendant telling Cameron Poole was locked, which they would have to keep in mind, not days